Maybe they will be less judgmental. Maybe they will have more empathy. Maybe they will think more before they speak.
These kind of guys like to say like woke culture or the Me Too mob are ruining everything. And really, those are just used as these straw men for the idea that racism and misogyny and sexism and homophobia and all of these things aren't funny.
Yeah.
And if those are your humor, maybe it's time to course correct.
Drag Queen Story Hour is a literacy program. The goal is to get kids excited about books, and particularly books like gender fluidity and or about gender fluidity, and giving kids queer role models.
A lot of the core values of being a drag queen, love, acceptance, joy, laughter, self-expression, are values that we want to instill in our kids. So I think it's really important that we bring this program and we spread the joy of reading and the joy of just spreading love.
Civil rights leaders met with Facebook executives Thursday to discuss the spread of hateful content and misinformation on the platform, that the spread of hate speech could curb democratic participation and threaten the safety and freedom of targeted groups.
Well, the biggest takeaway is that we've come a long way, but we have so much further to go. Is that we need to move from reactive to proactive. We need to make sure that they are baking in racial justice from the start as they move out new products, with a deep recognition that there is going to be no mission accomplished when it comes to all the ways in which their platform can really create situations in which inequality can be supercharged. But freedom of speech is not freedom from the consequences of speech. You can't go into a crowded room and yell something. You don't get free pass to say whatever you want. And quite frankly, Facebook as a platform actually has a responsibility to ensure that people are protected and safe on their platform, to ensure that misinformation isn't spread or treated the same.
You know, they have a responsibility. They've agreed to a civil rights audit that's set to be released next week.
Direct messenger. And so now we have to deal not just with keyword searches, but the behavior of certain actors and how those behaviors are actually drumming up hate and intolerance.
Today, I am not proud to be a CSU Ram.
That is the feeling of almost every student in this overcrowded ballroom.
I have felt targeted, ridiculed, unwelcomed, and isolated for being a woman of color.
A pain thousands of CSU students say they've felt and witnessed for years.
There have been people called the N-word, been spit on, had things thrown at them. People won't even walk their way because they look different.
This has been built up for 4 years of CSU being complicit, CSU hiding behind freedom of speech, and CSU not doing anything to show students of color and show marginalized identities that they care for us.
When the university's president said this picture of freshmen in blackface didn't violate school policies and was protected under free speech, numerous students called out Joyce McConnell for supporting racists.
I am genuinely embarrassed for these students and the people who choose to entertain their disturbing behavior.
Yet not everyone in the packed student government meeting agreed.
Hate speech is included in free speech. I'm sorry, but you have to get a thicker skin sometime.
Several students spoke of needed changes in the school's policies.
Dozens gather for an anti-Semitism rally in New York City. The event bringing together elected officials and advocates to bring the attention to the rise of anti-Semitism and hate crimes in the city.
Jewish blood seems to be cheap again here in New York, unfortunately.
Fight it now. Fight it now. Fight it now.
Dozens gathered in front of City Hall.
If we don't stop it now, it's going to just escalate.
Coalitions from Yad Amin, New York, to Women Fight Anti-Semitism, to Zionist Organization of America, to name just a few. Those who came out say anti-Semitism is on the rise.
I live in Crown Heights, where there's a lot of anti-Semitic attacks. We have attacks sometimes 2 or 3 times a week.
And we're only in September. There's been an increase of 63%.
It shows a lack of judgment. You don't deserve a platform, and I'm happy to challenge you on that because your ideas are hurtful to Canada. I will always work to build unity.
Climate change is going to disproportionately affect those who are poor. Countries that are in the developing world are already facing tremendous disasters because of climate change. climate change refugees.
The next Drag Queen Storytime will take place here at the Gibson Library this Saturday. We had a chance to talk with one of the so-called diversity divas about all of the controversy, and he tells us this is a unique and fulfilling opportunity for drag performers. Matthew Dursky, also known as Polly Porcelain, leaves behind the snark, captivating a group that is both younger and much less cynical than his typical audience.
In Vegas, at least, there's not a lot of opportunities for like queer people or drag queens to do a project like this. And so as soon as I kind of like heard about it, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's such a great opportunity. So I knew I had to do it, because like, where else am I going to get that opportunity here?
Relatively new to the drag scene, the opportunity presented itself for Matthew as a part of an LGBTQ outreach program hosted by the public library system. But it's been met with protests here and across the country. Opponents who say the event is not appropriate for small children, finding and taunting drag performers on social media.
Are you ready to read some stories? We are going on a bear hunt. I'm going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. Uh-oh.
Well, we just know how important it is for kids to be introduced to reading and to literacy at a very young age, and that's why we run story times every week all throughout the year. So then when you couple that with the added element of fun and celebration of diversity of Drag Queen Storytime, and it's just a great event that we were very happy to host.
I'm a lion, but I'm scared of mice. There's a mouse, there's a mouse. The lion was shaking.
It's so good just to show the kids that everyone can be whoever they want to be, whatever they want to do in the future. My son himself, he wears girls' clothes all the time, and there's nothing wrong with it.
We need to be diverse in Guernsey, in the world, be global citizens. Need to show our children the way forward, that everything and anyone can be who they want to be.
It was brilliant, it was lively, it was energetic, it was funny, we loved the stories, we loved going on a bear hunt. It was active, just like Storytime should be.
I've been met with so much love as well. This is probably the warmest welcome I've ever received anywhere.
Thank you very much.
When this photo of North Central High School students posing with the Confederate flag hit social media, it hit senior Nicodemus Monch the wrong way, especially the caption reading, "Confederate Lives Matter."
As an African-American kid, to me that's like, whoa, like, what are you trying to portray? Are you trying to like mock the Black Lives Matter movement? This is a conversation piece and a teachable moment. It's a teachable moment to show that kids, whatever you post online will stick with you forever.
During the party, the students decided to burn the flag, reportedly to denounce racism. Now, Nicodemus wants North Central, where he will graduate like his mother did years ago, to make sure the flag is kept in its right perspective in American history.
The Confederate flag is something that shouldn't be played around with. It's something that people don't know a lot about, and I feel like we should be further taught on that subject.
Monch is even leading the charge in a silent demonstration here at his high school during Friday night football. He hopes others will join him and alumni on one knee during the national anthem before kickoff.
When anti-Semitism comes at the Jewish community from white supremacists, we are all sort of in agreement about what that is, because it's very blunt in its aims. It says, kill all the Jews, and then they try and do it. It is much more confusing when, for example, in the last week of August in Brooklyn, there were 3 ultra-Orthodox men that were violently assaulted, and they weren't assaulted by white supremacists. So what do you do when it's coming at all of these directions? And of course, it's also coming from the far left and seeping in, I fear, to the Democratic Party, which is a huge fear among Jews.
Hundreds of university staff have signed an open letter declaring racism and white supremacy have no place at the University of Auckland. A new wave of posters and stickers promoting a recently launched white nationalist group have been spotted at the university this week. The Chief Human Rights Commissioner says while the propaganda isn't unlawful, it does beg questions around whether New Zealand's current hate speech laws are fit for purpose.
What this group wants is it wants a commitment from the Vice-Chancellor, an unequivocal commitment that this university will not stand for, has zero tolerance for white supremacy, racism, discrimination, that we want the posters and stickers that were advertising a white supremacist group to be taken down, and we want a commitment to demonstrate the university's true aspiration to be safe, inclusive and equitable for all of our students.
Some students are even calling for the Vice-Chancellor's resignation.
There's growing interest across the country in moving the race conversation forward.
The idea is to listen and talk about hard topics such as white privilege and racial inequality.
Those gathered for a community conversation on racial justice, change that perhaps comes when people with different backgrounds have a conversation about racial justice.
Well, we are in Cedar Rapids for the LGBTQ forum, so
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about LGBTQ issues?
I think that's very appropriate,
Okay.
but not, you say it as if you're normalizing something that is such an extraordinary moment in history. This is a major presidential campaign, and this is the first LGBTQ forum ever.
How are you going to stand up for sex workers, some of the most marginalized within the LGBTQ community? Many sex workers are trans, many people of color, many disabled. How are you going to advocate for their safety and livelihoods?
Stickers and flyers that support white supremacy are appearing on college campuses around the country.
I'm just super surprised.
It doesn't make me feel good.
The stickers have been taken down, and according to a statement from the university president, their campus isn't the only one being targeted. This is a portion of what was sent out to students after the stickers were discovered. Let me be very clear, there is no room for hate at CNU. We denounce and reject the violence and vile and vicious voices of white supremacists. Today, the university wouldn't provide any specifics about the stickers, like who posted them and what they said.
It's really not okay. That's not acceptable.
Johnson County Community College, where anti-diversity posters were left on a number of bulletin boards.
Right now, campus police are going through surveillance footage trying to figure out who put up the posters. The college says they do not tolerate any hateful ideology.
At Johnson County Community College, diversity is celebrated. Some posters found around campus earlier this week promote a different point of view. Diversity divides nations, one of them reads.
I think it's very wrong.
Students like Tori Rowland and Daniel Kim Tai were surprised to hear of that kind of group spreading their message on campus.
Unfortunately, I think it's just part of our climate right now.
Not many people saw the display. KCPD officers tore it down shortly after two men put it up last Friday.
I don't believe that this city tolerates that.
YouTube actually blocked that group from using their platform, saying their videos violated their hate speech policies.
They claim to deliver the facts, hate facts, the flyers say, about members of the LGBTQ community and undocumented immigrants. Their messages spread this week across IUPUI's campus in stairwells and bathrooms.
Unfortunately, it's happened too many times. We had an incident probably late last year where there were similar white supremacy posters being placed on campus.
The ones that I saw had the crescent moon and star resembling the Islam faith, and there was also a Star of David and the Black Lives Matter symbol.
Shields took them down.
Regrettably, I did not report them. I think maybe it was a bit foolish of me to think that this was an isolated incident.
But supporters here wanting a day where there isn't a division between faith and sexuality.
We're members of our church. We're proud to be Catholic. We're proud to be members of the LGBT community, and we think it's important to support one another out here.
Well, trending today, Cover Girl introducing its first cover boy. This is 17-year-old James Dickinson. He's known as James Charles on social media.
When I say trans, you say power. Trans. 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 Yes.
I love all of you. It's about loving each other, honoring each other, trusting each other for what we need. We needed this march. We've been killed in America, where you're supposed to be free.
past photos of the Prime Minister in black and brown face have once again opened up the conversation on this racist practice deeply rooted in white supremacy. But some say we're missing the mark. And during an important election year, should be asking what each leader is doing to address racism and develop policies inclusive of all Canadians.
Blackface, is a historical issue for black folks. And I would argue that it has become, throughout the decades have become a rite of passage for young white people.
What are your thoughts about where the conversation has been going?
The conversation where it is a very superficial one, in the sense that it is not dealing with the issue of race. This is about white supremacy, and it's about a certain kind of white innocence being played out in our society that allows this weight to fall on black and brown bodies again. Now it becomes our responsibility to deal with this issue. This is not our issue. What are you doing, right, to ensure that black lives, indigenous lives, brown lives are not being, dispensed with?
In one of the photos revealed this week, Trudeau was donning what has been dubbed as brownface at an Arabian Nights party in 2001.
People across Canada are lacking an understanding and awareness of, Arab culture and history.
The executive director of the Canadian Arab Institute, a national nonpartisan community engagement think tank, agrees, saying evidence-based policies that address discrepancies are necessary.
A Racine synagogue has been vandalized with anti-Semitic graffiti. This is what our photojournalist found early this morning at Beth Israel Sinai congregation. Now, we have blurred out the images due to their offensive nature, but you can see the red spray paint on glass and part of a brick wall. We have reached out to officials in Racine, and we're working to learn more about just what happened here.
It's because part of the difficulty is, if I can speak plainly, the forces of white supremacy are so deeply embedded in our political system that it makes it difficult for you to untangle and tease out the pieces that you want to keep and the pieces that you want to stop from being able to utilize the platform.
The University of Rhode Island professor has slammed New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady, saying Brady owes his success to, quote, white supremacy and white rage.
There was some criticism around the idea that you weren't gay enough or queer enough to play this role. How did you feel about that?
Happening today, people all across the country and right here in Indiana are calling for equality. In Washington, D.C., they marched for LGBTQ rights, and here in Indianapolis, they rallied for it as well. People gathered on Monument Circle this afternoon holding signs that said "Resist" and "We love our trans kids."
The group that serves LGBTQ youth is tonight expanding to accommodate the growing number of kids seeking help. IYG also provides tutoring, meals, and social activities. That new building will include a classroom, kitchen, rec space, and offices.
The hate fueling several recent shooting rampages appears to have originated online in white supremacist chat groups like this one.
There's a certain freedom to express one's worst sentiments.
UNLV sociology professor Simon Gottschalk has seen the very worst.
A lot of extremely racist comments, a lot of extremely anti-Semitic comments.
With a team of student researchers, he analyzed more than 4,400 discussion threads from 8 blogs hosted on 3 prominent white supremacist websites. They narrowed down the main grievances like fear of white genocide and the most dominant emotions expressed, among them anger, fear, and happiness.
But what is most interesting is when those emotions are combined. So for example, anger and happiness then can combine and give rise to emotions such as the desire for vengeance.
Professor Gottschalk says these sites amplify and accelerate negative emotions, providing a form of social reinforcement, which has spurred efforts to shut down these sites despite free speech concerns.
Until we understand how that works and how to better stop it, we have to stop that kind of communication because then we don't understand. It's too fast, it's too quick, and the consequences are too much out of our control.
And that entire study will be published in an upcoming issue of Deviant Behavior. That's an academic journal.